walking. I'm going to go in this field across the street. So I walked across this little road, and I walked up in this field. I don't know if you saw the movie 1900 with Donald Sutherland, I think Robert, who was in there? Burt Lancaster, Robert De Niro. Not sure all of the people. Anyhow, there's a scene in there where workers were out in the field cutting the hay, and it just reminded me of that. It was in the summertime. It was in August, and you could hear the wheat clacking against each other, and that warm breeze right off the Mediterranean. And I walked up where you couldn't see anything except the Mediterranean, sit under a tree, and I thought, wow, this is as good as it gets. And I love that sense of being close to nature. And then I was thinking the other day, how infrequently do people in the city stop and ask themselves, in the hecticness of their day and the scheduling of their day, how much time do they give to be in a quiet place, a beautiful place, a place where there's no noises except the natural sounds of nature? And we don't. And then we walk down streets filled with garbage and all kinds of unusual and bad smells and noise, and we assume that this is what is because we adapt to it. And what I'd like to see is, I'd like to see at some point in the future a whole movement to create commons in the spaces where people can go and enjoy. Kids can go throughout the year, close to cities, where the state gives back land, and the land is able to be used just for the common good of all people. And I think it's very important you get out and enjoy that. You know, that's part of what it means to have a Mediterranean diet. Quiet, enjoying the company of the people you're with, nothing rushed, nothing hurried. People understand where their food comes from, and they're enjoying the moment. They're mindful of the moment they're in. I found that everywhere I went in Europe. So think about that today when you go to take your lunch, and what you're going to do that's going to take you away from appreciating being at one with the food you're eating. Separately, scientists find lack of vitamin K could cause age-related diseases. Now, people rarely talk about vitamin K. Here's a compelling reason to eat your green, leafy vegetables, including cabbage, cauliflower, Swiss chard, spinach, kale. By the way, kale is great. You take some kale. The best way to cook kale is this. Steam it for just 3 minutes. That's it. Then you rip it into pieces, put in some thinly sliced garlic, some cayenne and some curry, and red pepper, and you stir fry it in olive oil, warm enough that you can stick your finger in the oil and it doesn't burn you. That keeps it still in the category of raw. You're not denaturing it, you're not destroying enzymes or phytonutrients, yet you're allowing it to have its flavors released. Here's what a lot of people don't appreciate. When you eat some kale or Swiss chard, very little of that is actually going to get digested if you eat it raw. Same thing with broccoli. But when you allow heat, a small amount of heat, and not a high temperature heat, it opens up the cell, what is called the ligocellulose. And when you open up the non-digestible fiber, then the nutrients, the indole-3 carbanols, the anti-cancer nutrients, come out. So in effect, and this is also true of the tomato, study after study shows that by lightly heating a tomato, as you do in traditional sauces, low temperature, you get more nutrients. You get more bioactive lycopene, even more than if you eat a raw tomato, because the heat allows hydrolysis, or the releasing of a nutrient. So low heat, soft cooking I call it, and you actually get more nutrition. Oh, by the way, I'm going to be getting in my equipment. I've ordered my scientific equipment, and hopefully I'll get it within the next 2 weeks. I'm going to set up an experiment, and it's going to be measuring life force in foods. And I'm going to do a whole new study. It'll probably take me about a month, and I'll be working on it each day. And anyone, when I finally get underway, anyone who wants to come and sit and observe this, I'm going to allow 3 or 4 people at a time to come in. I don't have all that much room, but they can watch as I do the experiment. And you can see how it's all unfolding. So I'll let you know when that's happening. And I'll have a whole new study. And then I'm going to do it with people. And I'm going to try an experiment. I'm going to take people of all ages and do a measurement with no understanding and no history of them scientifically, and see if I can determine the diseases they're processing just based upon where energy is in the body. And then we'll ask them about their medical history after that, see how accurate it is. It'll be an interesting study. Anyhow, get your vitamin K, because if you have your vitamin K, you're preventing a lot of other diseases that will otherwise occur. Cancer, heart disease, and dementia are all related to having too little vitamin K, and K2 is the best form of K if you're going to supplement with about 5 milligrams. Now, if you've been eating your melons, watermelons, Crenshaw, honeydew, cantaloupe, good for you, because there's natural substances in the melons that relieve stress and fatigue. Here is the latest. This is from S.L. Baker, naturalnews.com. It says, now scientists have found that a natural substance derived from melons may actually be an antidote to stress. When most of us say that we are experiencing too much stress, we mean we are overloaded with work and personal problems in life in general. Of course, a certain amount of stress can be stimulating and is even exciting. But when we have stressors without a break, a host of symptoms from irritability to an inability to concentrate to a fast heartbeat to headaches and a reduced resistance to an infection can develop. So it's not hard to suspect a causal relationship between being stressed out and showing physical symptoms. In fact, recent studies have demonstrated a correlation between perceiving stress and what scientists call oxidative stress, a steady state level of oxidative damage to your cells and their tissues and organs caused by reactive oxygen species, and like free radicals and peroxides. And so what they found was that antioxidants like superoxide dismutase enzymes are known to help break down potentially harmful oxygen molecules in cells, potentially reversing this oxidative stress. So a scientist, Marie Ann Melissi, and her colleagues in clinical research decided to test an ingredient derived from melons, which is rich in superoxide dismutase enzyme, to see if it in any way impacted the body with oxidative stress. In other words, people are burned out, high stress levels. They did a double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled study published in Biomed Journal of Nutrition, and the scientists recruited 70 healthy volunteers between 30 and 55 years of age who complained of experiencing daily stress and fatigue. And once a day for 4 weeks, they gave them a dietary supplement made from melon juice. Had about 140 units of superoxide dismutase per capsule. Or they got a placebo. And then they cross-matched them. And there was no side effects, but there was a substantial benefit in reducing signs of stress and fatigue. They experienced better concentration, less weariness, and insomnia, less irritability. And in their final statement, they said that there was a substantially improved reaction when they took not the placebo, but when they took the substance from melons. Now, here are my thoughts. Practically speaking, a lot of people are not going to take a lot of melons, though they should. It's a good way to start your day, have a melon juice, because it's low in calories, low in sugar, but rich in a lot of different phytonutrients. But I'm looking at this figure, 130 units of superoxide dismutase. I take over 5,000 milligrams of superoxide dismutase a day. But I'm taking it because I'm drinking green juices and the concentrates of powders. Much better if you were to have 1 ounce shot of wheatgrass juice. That is flooding your blood with superoxide dismutase. 10 times what you're getting in this study. And yet, in this study, it was a superoxide dismutase that helped stressed out people. So here's the bottom line. If you're stressed out, if you're fatigued, 1 shot in the morning, 1 in the evening, early evening of wheatgrass juice, and you can make an enormous difference in relieving stress and fatigue. Now, if you don't have a way of getting it fresh daily, go to the health food store,